Looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub2 Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub2ers, my name's William Tingle of Sub2Deals.com. I would like to welcome you to this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. Now, occasionally, we'll talk about some other things, but it's always something to help you with your real estate investing business. Today is another episode in our Real Experts series. This is where real experts in one or more aspects of real estate investing come on to share what they know to help you with your business. My guest today is Rob Arnold. Rob is his field of expertise. I tell you, I was telling him, I read his bio this morning and I was like, it wore me out. This guy knows everything about real estate. He is a licensed real estate broker in the state of Florida, been an investor since the early 90s, flipped hundreds of houses, been involved in thousands of real estate transactions. So if it's real estate, he knows about it. He's in a little town called, I think it's Almonte Springs in Florida. It looks like was born there and has lived there all his life. So anyway, I've seen a lot of his Facebook posts, though. I know he gets around. He's usually got a lady parade. I kid him about that, about all his harem that he travels with. But anyway, we're going to let him talk to you and tell you a little bit about what he does. So Rob, welcome to the Sub2 Deals Show.
I'm just right outside of Orlando, Florida. It's actually a suburb of Orlando, Florida. So it's a big metro where I'm at.
Okay. All right. For some reason, I've seen that in your post before about where you're from, but for some reason it struck me as a small town, but I guess it's really not. It's more like a suburb of Orlando.
Yeah, it's a big place where I'm at. The town itself is not huge, but there's a lot going on. It's Disney World and all that. So. Oh
yeah. Yeah. I know you and I were talking a little bit before we got started here. I actually we met probably, it was in 1999. I ordered my Carlton Sheets course off late night TV. And of course, I read that and was totally overwhelmed and got on Google and started looking for real estate. And of course, the big elephant in the room at the time was a website called CRE Online. That was pre-Facebook days, you youngsters out there. So all we had were news groups. And you were like one of the prolific posters there, Rob FL. I remember you being on there. And so that's how we met a really long time ago. Yeah. Okay. So
been on there in a while. So
yeah, it's been a while, that's for sure. But anyway, so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about today, I know you're an active investor as well as a realtor, and just the strange things that are going on in the market right now. I mean, we just saw the headline this morning. They're extending the foreclosure moratoriums through June. So it's going to go through the middle of the year. And I know personally, a lot of the deals that we've done over the 20 years plus I've been investing have been distressed properties, people in foreclosure. It was probably 50% of our business. I mean, are you seeing problems with that down there? Are the deals harder to get? I mean, you guys are in a super hot market. What are you seeing going on down there right now?
Deals are very challenging to find right now. It's I mean, last year when COVID first came and a lot of the lockdowns kicked in, I mean, everybody was just scrambling. What do we do? And nobody knew what was going to happen with the economy. So a lot of people paused, and then a lot of sellers just decided, okay, we don't want a bunch of people coming through our properties, and so they pulled inventory off the market and made even less properties available. And then on top of that, a lot of these apartment people that, they don't want to be around crowded areas and elevator buttons and, neighbors right on top of each other. And so a lot of those thought that buying a house might be a good idea. So it just even more pressure on finding properties, and just makes it much more competitive to even find the deals. And so it's been a challenge to say the least. And then, I mean, a lot of the customers that I sell properties for, they buy them at the foreclosure auctions, and when they shut those down, basically with a lot of the moratorium. I mean, there's a few of them that go through now at the auction where it's not a government-backed loan, but it's very few, and so it's just a perfect storm for a shortage of inventory.
Oh yeah,
lot of demand and low supply.
Mm-hmm. I know, and we saw recently that one of the bills they're pushing through right now is this huge tax credit for home buyers. Get out there and buy a house, right. And it just, I mean, I read it. It just, it's just amazing that in such a market right now with double digit, I mean, where I live in Colorado, it's 20% appreciation. Another target we used to do was VA loans, because these guys would come in, they'd buy a house. Well, they'd get orders, 12 months later, they wouldn't have any equity. They couldn't afford to hire a realtor. They were very motivated to sell. But these guys can pay $300,000 for a house now, live in it a year and a half, sell it and walk away with $25,000. So, I mean, after paying fees. So, that kind of put the brakes on some of that too. But it's just, with all that we got going on, and now they're going to give this huge incentive to people to run out into the marketplace that maybe wouldn't be going to buy more houses. Man, gosh, what are we getting into here?
Well, it seems like that with that, I mean, that would have been a good idea. And I think they had similar type ideas back during the Great Recession, a decade ago, mm-hmm. When the problem was a lack of demand. Mm-hmm. Now the demand is strong in most areas, but right. it's the supply, especially the affordable housing supply. Mm-hmm. And I'm not exactly sure how to address that. But by giving a credit, that just seems to even propound the demand even more so, and it's going to make it even more challenging to find properties.
So with what we've got going on now, as somebody that's in the marketplace, as a realtor, for buyers, I mean, as an investor too, if you had to give advice to an investor today, maybe that was getting started, what would you tell them that the most likely lead source or their best opportunity would be in the marketplace today? What's your advice on that?
I mean, I think the best source for mine is really, you're going to have to do just a lot more detective work with finding properties that have distress, because even during this these strange times that seem maybe it's like it's plateaued a little bit with all the craziness that we had last year, but I mean, people still people pass away, sadly. I mean, people get divorced, people still want to move. There's and I'm sure in some of these bigger cities, what I hear on the news constantly, especially West Coast and the Northeast, a lot of people are just fleeing some of those places, and so there's sales that are going to occur, and there's life events that are happening, and so we just need to be a little bit more of a detective to find those. And I mean, in properties that if a property does need work, and to the point where it's not going to be able to pass for a bank financing like a conventional or an FHA mortgage, then there is somebody is going to ultimately have to buy that, and it's going to be some type of investor or a cash buyer or creative sale of some sort. So that's not necessarily a on market deal.
Right. Yeah, interesting times for sure. That's for sure. Well, Rob, the primary reason I wanted to have you on here today, I know as an agent, a broker, and an investor, you've got some insight into working with investors. I'm sure you work with a lot of them. And I can speak from my experience as well. A lot of times there's this adversarial almost existence between real estate agents and investors. And I think that's largely because when you're new and you're first getting started, you don't know what the right agent is to work with you. So you just go out there looking for the agent with the big billboard and whatever that you see everywhere, and you call her up and she's probably not very interested, or he's not very interested in working with you. It's a unique sort of niche with agents that are going to want to work with investors. Do you find that to be true? You don't really know what you're looking for until you know what you're looking for.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Many of the realtors, especially ones that you see advertising a lot in magazines, billboards, radio, online things. A lot of the ones that you see they're basically like retail type of agents that are, they're looking for the traditional home sellers and buyers that want to buy the retail priced properties with bank financing and not typically the investors. So that's not necessarily the person you need to be trying to connect with as a realtor. It's better off to find somebody that's more specializes towards investors, or at least works with investors.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what's your advice as far as, let's say I'm a new investor and I'm just getting out into the marketplace, and I read somewhere that I need an investor that can, an agent that can get me comps or that can do things like that for me. What's the best source for a new investor to go out and find that agent without having to sort through a bunch of retail type agents?
But at least pre-COVID, I would normally say go to your local real estate club, RIA, Real Estate Investor Association, and go network, and people will usually point you to the real estate agent or broker that you would that you want to see with. With a lot of things being online now, there's less in-person meetings. There are if there is a RIA, a real estate club that does things online, you can probably use that as a resource, and as well as a lot of these online type of social media groups. There's a lot of people on there, and if you can get multiple people pointing to the same person, that may be the person you need to go talk to.
Right. Okay.
And realtors always want to talk to people, so that's what they do. So
right. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So just trying to get with some of those online RIAs, if there are meeting locally, you definitely want to do that. What we used to do to find somebody, if we didn't have anybody, was go through those realtor magazines, anybody that lists a lot of investor properties, that type of thing. They're a little bit more prone to working with investors, people that have REO listings, that type of stuff. Would you say those are still good sources?
If you have the ability to do some research, then and you're not having any luck with the first suggestion, then I would try to research and see which realtors are selling to cash buyers and investors, and try to connect with them, because and there's ways to research that online, but it's not as simple as just asking. If you can get some type of referral, it's certainly the best places to do it. But yeah, there are ways to research that online through public records and through internet sites, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, things like that. So
yeah.
The Sub2 Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Have you ever had a seller give you a house? It's a pretty awesome experience. If a seller wanted to give you a house today, would you know what needed to be done to make the deal happen? Would you like to learn how? The Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook will show you exactly what you need to get those deeds and sell those houses with seller financing. Join the thousands of other investors across the country who learned how to get the deed with the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook. Get the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook today at sub2deals.com. Back to the show, the Sub2 Deals Show, with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
I know it's a different agent, I think, that you're looking for. It depends on what you want to do, really. I know when I moved to Colorado Springs, we were looking for an agent to help us with making creative offers to listed properties. Now, this was right before COVID. So the market wasn't quite as hot, but and what we were doing the research. We were looking for properties that had been on the market for 60, 90 days. We would do the research on our end with a tool like PropStream or something where we could see how long the owner had owned the property, how much equity there was in the property. So we would try to match up situations where long days on property, little to no equity. If it was vacant, that was a bonus. And then try to get an agent to present a creative offer for us. Woo, that was tough. We talked to probably 40 agents before we found a couple that would even be willing to do that. They seem so, I guess they're just not taught in agent training to think outside of the box at all. Most of them didn't have a clue. They thought what we were doing was illegal in some way or something like that. Do you see that a lot still?
Yeah, well, especially if you, like I said, if you're dealing with a lot of those retail agents, that's or if a lot of them, if they work for some of the big name brand type of brokerages,
right,
that you'll get a lot more of that, where my broker won't allow us to do this, or what you're doing is illegal or unethical, or whatever. And if they start talking like that, then that's a real quick sign that you're talking to the wrong person, and you need to keep on shopping. I mean, some of it, I mean, you're almost kind of interviewing them and screening them to some degree to find the right person. And so, yeah, if they start talking about retail stuff or start talking about, illegal, then that's you're talking to the wrong person. You want somebody that's at least has worked some with investors or cash buyers and beyond just retail type of real estate, and probably ideally probably work either with a smaller brokerage or at least like not a big corporate name brand national franchise type of brokerage, because usually those type, I mean, not all of them are a problem, but a lot of them, they just they don't really like the agents doing a lot of creative things or using special clauses in the contract or doing something where it's not just a normal vanilla plain type of transaction. And where some of the smaller outfits or the outfits where they have a creative broker, creative agents in there, they will be more open-minded to what you're trying to do.
Right. So let's say that I went to a RIA, I did some research, I found an agent that's open to working with an investor. What are some of the things that you could expect an agent to do for you, just that can help you out in your business?
Well, I think the main things that you would want the agent for is certainly a source of leads if you can get to them. Right now, it's leads are tough to get anything creative or way below market value or stuff like that. It's just not as much, but it's the market ebbs and flows, and so eventually that will change as well. You want them to provide you some source of comps, either through the MLS or public records, or when the time comes for you to make an offer, you want to get their a decent opinion on what the ARV after repair value would be on a property, so you have some idea what how to structure your offer. So you want to have those numbers, and you want to, and if it's something that you're looking to keep, then you want to have the property in a reasonably decent condition, so that it can be so it doesn't just pass for not getting the right type of financing and things like that when it comes to it. The comps and somebody who's willing to do the offers quickly once you submit something. It's not somebody that's overwhelmed with just a whole bunch of other clients and customers. It's got to be somebody that's, some of these veteran type of agents have been around a while. They're just so busy working on other transactions that they don't necessarily want to get to you. So it's
okay.
That answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess what I'm really looking for is what's up. if I'm an investor and I approach you, Rob, and say, I want to work with you, I may want to make some creative offers. I may do the occasional cash buy with an REO if you have one listed, or if one is listed, I can make my offer through you, of course, and you're compensated for that. As you hear so many people talking about, well, find an agent, they'll do this for you, they'll do that for you. I mean, everybody wants to get paid for their effort. So if I'm working with you and I'm asking you to get comps for me or pull expired listings for me and send me a list of those if you can, or maybe even give me MLS access, because you hear that a lot too. And I know we've had access in multiple markets. Sometimes you can pay for, some markets allow you to have an associate's access. Some realtors that are cooperative will make you their assistant so you can get access. And there's all kind of opinions on whether that's ethical or legal or not even. But I guess what I'm trying to get is an idea of what an agent can do for you, what's ethical to ask them to do, and at what point should you be compensating them? And how can you legally do that? We hear, and like I said, we get into these discussions in the forum all the time. Let's say, Rob, that you've got a client that you've had their property listed and it hasn't sold, and they're anxious because they're getting a divorce. They can't afford their payments behind. Let's just say we're in a normal market, because hopefully one day we will be again. And they're just at their wit's end, and they ask you, what can I do? You've got the listing, you work with me, and you go, listen, I understand that you guys are in trouble. I know a guy that might be able to help you. I mean, how do you compensate? How do I compensate you for that? I mean, what would you recommend as a fair way to compensate you that's not against any MLS rules or anything like that?
I have a few people that have like assistants underneath me, and a lot of them are the ones I do have. They're people who regularly do business with me, and what I've done with them is just they have to pay whatever the fees are to the Realtor Association. There's some nominal setup fee, and then I have them pay me like a monthly fee just for things here and there. Not a whole lot, but $100 a month or something like that. But it's people that are doing some business. If they're not doing anything, then I'm not sure what they're why they would stay on as an assistant.
Right.
But the main things you want out of the realtor just to provide you comps and provide you occasional consulting and advice, and then of course writing up the offers when the time comes, assistance with that. I would I guess my advice for working with them would just be, you don't, if at all possible, try to figure out some way to do as much research and due diligence out on your own before you ask them, because the last thing a realtor needs is say, here's 8 properties, can you please do comparable market analysis on all 8 of these, and I'm not sure if I'm going to buy any of them, and they don't want to do that.
Right.
So you need to either be on PropStream or get MLS access through them or some way, so that you can do some of that research in advance. And the same with showings, if you can if you can work around without making them go out and take an entire day to go out and show you a bunch of properties. That's another thing that can take a lot of time, is just going out and viewing those, if you're using something that's not like a creative financing and such, then have your money lined up already. Don't be relying necessarily on a realtor to try to help you find a lender. Do some advanced work and get your either hard money lender or your own cash or equity partner or somebody already lined up, so that you're ready to go if a deal does present itself. Because sometimes the realtor is screening you as well. So
sure. For sure. Let me ask you this. This comes up at times too. Let's just say that I notice a property for sale, and it's got a realtor sign in the yard, and I do a little bit of research because I've got PropStream and I know there's zero equity and they haven't owned it very long. So I know there's probably some situation. And I call up the agent that's listed on that sign. I don't have an agent to work with. Maybe I'm new. Maybe I just don't have an agent. But I call that agent up and I say, hey, Mary, I see that you've got this property listed on Oak Street and I would like to make an offer. And she's like, great. Who's your lender? And I go, no. I know the property's listed for 200. I know that they owe 195 and I would like to make an offer of 195 subject to the existing financing. And she's, oh, no, my seller would never entertain an offer like that and I won't present it. So where do we go then?
Yeah, well, the ideal thing would be to if they just say they won't present it, then they may need to they got to be re-educated on that because they can't just
they do that, Rob.
I know they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't just not present offers unless the seller's already instructed them in writing to do so. I mean, if you are an individual, I could not go around the listing agent, but if you're an individual, I mean, you're free to go knock on the door and talk to the seller directly if you really have to. I mean, ideal thing is not to do that, but if they are being the listing agents be completely resistant to that, I would, especially if it's been on the market for a while, I don't have an issue with telling somebody just go over there, knock on the door. All the seller can do is say, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Talk to my realtor on the sign there.
Right.
And that's the worst thing that can happen. But I mean, I've seen it before where the listing agent is being rude or a jerk or whatever, and people, the buyer goes over there. And I remember a couple of years ago, one of my customers had that, and it was like a $400,000 or something house, and the listing agent was just being rude, and and they just went over and knocked on the door and talked to the seller and was able to work everything out, and then we brought the transaction back to our office, and put it all together. But they had to just kind of get some of the realtors out of the way. I mean, sometimes it works both ways. Sometimes it's good to have a realtor represent you, and sometimes they're in the way. So
I get it. I tell you, and I say that because, they'll tell some of these investors too, it's illegal to go around an agent. There's a contract there and they'll sue you for tortuous interference and all kind of stuff. And I say, listen, if the agent's not, because I'm not going to try to cut an agent out of their fee. I mean, they've done some work, they deserve it. But if they won't present the offer, I will definitely go knock on the door and say, and tell the seller, we tried to make an offer through your agent and they wouldn't hear it, just for clarity there.
Yeah. Realtor to realtor, the realtors have a code of ethics, and a realtor cannot go around a listing agent as a buyer agent, except for in very certain circumstances. But as a direct buyer, I mean, that does not apply. And so it's but you just have to be cautious doing it. I mean, it's better to make a deal than not make a deal.
Right. That's, and that's one of the reasons that whenever I'm asked, I tell investors, don't get a license, because it just ties your hands in so many situations. Just like I've heard you say twice today, well, as an agent, as a broker, I can't do that. Yes, you do get access to the MLS and you get access to a lot of tools, but that's nothing you can't get from a licensed agent if you meet the right person. So in my opinion, and tell me what you think. I mean, listen, you've been doing this for 30 years as a broker and as an investor. So obviously you think it's great. But as a rule, do you think it's highly beneficial for an agent to have for an investor to have a license?
It's not as much as it used to be. I mean, 20 years ago, when the information was not as readily available, I mean, the MLS was kind of the golden key to getting comps, and there wasn't really anything even remotely resembling the MLS back, early 2000s and before that. And so, I mean, you could go on realtor.com or, public records data and try to piece things together, but it's not, now, I mean, any seller that doesn't have at least some idea what they're house is worth, from going online is kidding themselves. So, I mean, there's a lot of data available. So, I mean, that's the main thing is the MLS. I mean, the other thing with having the license is that it does allow you to get commissions on a deal. And sometimes what we do is, we'll get a motivated seller, they contact us, and then we can offer them an all cash price. We can offer them a creative finance type of price. And if that doesn't work out, then we can say, well, we'll list the house for our stated commission rate, and then and get a commission off of it. And probably about half the time that the seller, once they see a lowball offer or that they're not going to get all their money, then they are more interested in just listing it and trying to see what the market will bear. But it's not always the case. The market's real extreme right now, and so a lot of sellers just know that they can sell for top dollar without hardly even trying. But it's that will change with time. But I think the main benefits of the license that is the MLS and just the basic software that works with it, and the ability to get a commission. But a lot of that software has changed, and so it's I don't think the license is as important as it used to be.
Right. And it keeps you it keeps you from having to rely on Zillow for comps, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess another thing also that the license allows is if you're an investor looking at listed properties like REOs and foreclosures, you don't have to go and contact some other person to have them show you the property. You can go over there and basically let yourself in using lockbox keys and things like that. So it's just there's less of an intermediary in there.
Right.
So I mean, there's something you could save commissions listing your own properties and things like that too. So I mean, there's pros and cons to it.
Right. The biggest problem, I guess, that I always think of when I think of being licensed and trying to be an investor is, their code of ethics that keep you from doing so many things. Like, supposedly, if you put out a bandit sign, it's supposed to have your license number on it and some kind of disclosure. Any kind of marketing that you do, you have to say, I'm a licensed agent, basically. Right. And what I've run into a lot, and this is funny, and I'm sure you've been doing this a while, you've probably experienced this in some way, is that if another agent that doesn't like you finds out you're not dotting every I and crossing every T, they'll turn you in.
Yeah, someone will, especially with the internet. Yeah, online, they will. It's easy online to do it.
Yeah. So that, it's like, I don't know. It's wholesalers, I've never been a wholesaler. I know in some of the groups on Facebook, and no offense to any wholesaler listening, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably okay. But if you get in some of those groups, man, those guys eat their own, you know what I mean? And some agents are that way too. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty Wild West, some of that wholesaling.
Yeah,
I've seen.
It is. It's,
daisy chains of wholesalers.
I call them the honey badgers of the investing world. You know what I mean? Because they're just wild and they'll jump on each other in a minute about stuff. So yeah, I've just always kind of seen some agents being that way. Not all.
I've had a few. I'm not a broker in my office, so usually when there's a complaint, I'm the one that gets the phone call.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. Well, I mean, Rob, obviously, you're an agent, an investor friendly broker. So if anybody's in your area down there, are you just local or do you do stuff across the country?
The license is just in Florida. Mm-hmm. So we do most of the state of Florida. Our operations, the headquarters is around the Orlando area, but mm-hmm. About anywhere within about 3 hours of Orlando is where we operate.
Okay. So, but you said you will cover the state of Florida. Is that right?
Yeah. We do listings all over the state of Florida. I do them from Miami to Jacksonville and everywhere in between.
Okay. So. Well, great. So if there's an investor listening or anyone that wants to list a property or anybody that has the need for a broker in the state of Florida, they could contact you. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. So what's the best way to reach you?
Best way, either call the office. It's on the sign behind me, but it's 407-389-7318. Or you can go to our website, which is sdrhouses.com. like Sand Dollar Realty, SDRhouses.com. That's the best way to find me. Or if you go on to Facebook and other social media sites, just look up Rob Arnold or Sand Dollar Realty Group. You'll find us pretty quick. So.
Okay. So they can call you, they can go to your website, and that's sdrhouses.com. Find you on Facebook, Rob Arnold, or Sand Dollar Realty. Is that right? Okay, great. Well, Rob, thanks so much for the information, man. I appreciate it. It's a question we get a lot about how to find a realtor to work with, and what realtors can do for you. And like I said, you're one of the first people I met when I got online with real estate investing. And I knew you were a broker, and thought you'd be a great source of information. And we really appreciate you. Okay, Sub-Tours, that's it for this episode of the Sub-2 Deals Show podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode along with a complete transcript at sub2podcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast. It only takes a minute, and it helps others discover the show. Also, if you haven't yet, join us in our free Facebook Subject To group at sub2forum.com. We talk about Subject To and all types of creative real estate investing. So until next time, keep learning, keep talking to sellers, and you will buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub-2 Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit sub2deals.com, on Facebook at Sub2 Deals. We'll catch you next time.